We are going to have a talk about MANGOSUTHU BUTHELEZI. Actually, he was known as Chief MANGOSUTHU BUTHELEZI. He was made a tribal prime minister in 1954 by an uncle of his, by a maternal uncle of his. The maternal uncle was the Zulu chief of that time. Now, between 1954 and 2023, when he died, he was the cultural or the traditional prime minister of the Zulu tribe. During the last days of apartheid in South Africa, he was made, during the last days of the apartheid in South Africa, they created regional, or could you call regional governments. This was an attempt by the apartheid government to have regions form some sort of countries so that they leave the main country to the Boers. These were now called Bantustan. You remember, we have a country called Afghanistan, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, and maybe JI-TENGE. Now, stan is an Asian word saying country. Pakistan is the country for Pakis. Afghanistan is for the Afghans. Uzbekistan is for the Urbest. So the apartheid also started what was called Bantustan. Most of the tribes, if not all, in South Africa are Bantus. So Bantus were being placed in several places to make semi-autonomous countries. And so KwaZulu Natal was created as a Bantustan, and Chief Buthelezi was made the prime minister for KwaZulu Natal between 1970 and 1994. Now, I'm trying to say this. He was two prime ministers in one. He was the cultural prime minister for the Zulu tribe, just like the Baganda had their own Lukiko, whatever. I think members of the viewers from Kampala will tell us about that, where Kabaka was both the president of Uganda and the king of the Baganda. So they also had their own prime minister for the Baganda. And that is how Buthelezi was a prime minister twice. From 1954 up to his death in 2023, last year, he was the tribal prime minister. But when provinces were being created, they were looking for those fat places to remain for Boers, and Africans were being placed in different places to make Bantustan. And he was made the prime minister for KwaZulu Natal. I'm trying to repeat this by saying between 1954 and 1970, he was the cultural prime minister. But between 1970 to 1994, he was the KwaZulu Natal prime minister. From 1994 to 2023, he was the cultural prime minister. But you find that when South Africa got independence in 1994, all the Bantustans were deleted or banned. He had a political party. Most of the time when he was a prime minister, both cultural and KwaZulu Natal, he served under three Zulu kings. He served under three Zulu kings, but the one whom he served for most was King Goodwill Zwelithini. King Goodwill Zwelithini. I think my Necktop computer has pronounced the second name properly. So he headed a political party that was called Inkatha Freedom Party. Inkatha Freedom Party. Now, the Inkatha Freedom Party, in the 70s, it was pro-ANC. But in the 80s, it was anti-ANC. ANC, that is African National Congress. He differed greatly with the ANC even on the ideological conditions. He was for the fact that just like, very soon I'll talk about South Sudan, just like Riek Machar in Southern Sudan always bent low for the Arabs in Khartoum, the same way BUTHELEZI bent down for the Boers in South Africa. There was also ideological differences because you can see he was a capitalist, but ANC was a socialist. So that is how he used to perform. And as South Africa was going to get independent, they had a lot of struggle with ANC of Nelson Mandela. It was the internal struggle was so harsh that the independence was nearly postponed. But two hero Kenyans, left Nairobi to South Africa and made a handshake between Chief BUTHELEZI and Nelson Mandela. These two heroes were Justice Zacchaeus Richard Musambi Chesoni and Professor Washington Okumu. These are the people who went and talked to the two without any other intermediaries, and the two agreed to join together and form a government of national unity. In the government of national unity, the president was Nelson Mandela. The president was Nelson Mandela, and the deputy president was Thabo Mbeki. Nelson Mandela once made history. You know, when the president is out of the country, he usually signs off the executive powers to the vice president, or as in South Africa, it's called deputy president. But there is an occasion when both the president and the deputy president were out of the country. Do you know what Mandela did? A very unique thing that other presidents don't do. He signed that the head of Inkatha Freedom Party, who was the Minister for Home Affairs, Chief BUTHELEZI, was to act as the president for about a week. As I finalize this about Chief BUTHELEZI, kindly watch. I have written several constitutions worldwide. I'm confusing the constituency and constitution. I've recorded about different constitutions worldwide, including the South African one, which is called proportional representative constitution. So kindly, as you watch this, also watch that one about proportional constitution, where MPs are not assigned constituencies like most of the countries we have. Thank you.